Hey, welcome to Discourse Dudes. I am Trevor.
I'm Dylan.
And for the next hour or so, we will be your Discourse Dudes specifically.
That's right, Trevor, and we're kicking off Rocktober on Discourse Dudes. All month long, we'll be playing the hits that really rock from the 70s, 80s, and beyond. Commercial free from 5 to 7, all rock, no talk, and we'll be giving away tickets to Avenged Sevenfold at Fenway Park. If you can say the phrase, that pays. So don't touch that dial, lock it in, and rip it off here on Discourse Dudes.
Hell yeah, I can't wait to get the lead out. What is the phrase that pays?
I think it's I'm a rude dude. I don't know. I don't have it. We got to talk to the sales department on that one.
Oh, well, maybe it's something we could figure out over the course of this episode. Which we will be using to discuss all of our favorite discourse from October 2024. We're back. It's time to look at it.
Okay, I'm locked in. It's a spooky month. I'm a little nervous, Trevor.
It's a spooky month, due in no small part to the fact that this fucking election is still going, man, and it's amping up. It is getting more furious than ever. I'm sure we're going to have all kinds of, developments to talk about. Last time we talked about, what did we talk about last time? We talked about a bunch of irate Australians, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
We saw Diddy getting arrested. It's a lot of interesting stuff in September 2024. Let's see what October shall bring, shall we?
I'm nervous because I don't really want to relive this.
Yeah. But we're going to, starting with this first bullet of discourse for October 2024. Let's see if it's a classic slow one or if things start off a little more exciting this month. But let's see, this first bullet we've got.
Okay.
J.D. Vance and Tim Walz meet for vice presidential debate. So yeah, not exactly a slow one. Not really one I'm excited to revisit either, though. This debate stuff, man, it's a real chore.
There's the picture of Waltz looking like scared, and then there's the picture of JD giving like side eye to the camera. Those came from this.
I remember seeing a lot less fallout from this debate than I was perhaps expecting to see from it. And I feel like that resulted from the fact that this was not the all-out blowout for Tim Walz that it should have been. Like, I remember seeing a lot of whispers that, like, somehow J.D. Vance, if he didn't at least handle himself well, he prevented any major embarrassments from happening for him.
He did, yeah. And I can't tell you a talking point of this thing. I really couldn't.
No, it really seemed like the mood was everybody was really geared up to watch Tim Walz, who I think, by this point, the campaign had adjusted the way it was deploying Tim Walz to the effect that he was a much less exciting part of the campaign.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were still kind of geared up to watch him dunk on J.D. Vance. It felt like a pretty sure thing that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then when it didn't, I think a lot of people were like, all right, let's move on. We don't need to talk about that too much.
Other than just those faces, those two faces that got memed a lot.
Yeah.
Of Waltz looking scared and JD kind of going, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I would give this one the doom.
I'm dooming it.
Yeah, I hate to start the month off with a doom, but I don't really see an option here. Speaking of a very memed face, I think we've got a case of that one coming up in this next bullet.
Okay.
More U.S. politics, sort of. Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter turns 100 years old.
Yeah, I know the face you're talking about.
He looked bad. I mean, there's no way you look good at 100, but
no, but he looked like a corpse for sure.
I would have required some convincing if you really wanted to convince me that he did turn 100 years old, and that was just not a body that I was looking at.
He appears to be unconscious in the park. They have him on kind of a stretcher of some sort, and his mouth is sort of open in that zombie-like way that you sort of start to see happen around that age.
A gape, I think it would be fair to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
A gape mouth.
Uh-huh.
Jimmy. He's such a sweet guy.
This is kind of really sad, isn't it? Because I feel like a big thrust of this discourse was like, yeah, Jimmy Carter is really hanging on so he can cast his vote for Kamala and see the first female president.
And he might be one of the only genuine sweethearts in American history, certainly to have become the president. like a
Sure.
genuinely good person. He spent the rest of his life like trying to eliminate hookworm from African bungalows and shit.
Trying to atone for the sins that he no doubt committed while, running this fair nation of ours.
You know what my favorite Jimmy Carter thing ever was?
What's that?
Where he did a Playboy interview in I believe it was either the midterm or when he got elected, but the idea was like, we got to coolify your image a little bit. We got to make you seem a little edgier and a little cooler. And the Playboy interviewer, bless his heart, asked him if he ever cheated on his wife. And his response was, I've committed the sin of adultery in my heart many times.
Oh. What are we thinking here, though? Boom or doom?
Oh, Jimmy,
Yeah. Do we want to give him a marginal boom just for making it?
Yeah, you know what? Congratulations, you made it.
Yeah. I'm sure your quality of life is still super high. Enjoy it while you still can. Boom. All right, we've got a pretty interesting bullet count up next. The sequel to one from episodes and episodes ago that we foreshadowed. Joker, Folie à Deux, is a box office bomb and a disaster with critics and audiences alike.
This was really fun, Film Discourse.
This was really funny.
And it was just a fun release weekend of everybody going, what the fuck is this? And and a movie that kind of feels like it's designed to make people unhappy at it.
Sure, but I mean, up until this dropped, I think people were still genuinely pretty optimistic about this thing, and they were looking forward to it.
And
in the days leading up to the release, the reviews did start to come out. Like, there were some problems here. And then, once the wide release happened, the floodgates were opened and people were like, what the fuck is going on with this movie?
You remember Todd Phillips trying to do Damage Control pre-release in interviews saying, like, it's not really a musical?
Yeah. There was all that buildup where they were like, it's a musical with Lady Gaga. And they were like, yeah, well, it's kind of a musical more in spirit, But it turned out to be a full-on musical.
It's straight up a musical.
Yeah.
No, I loved this. I loved all the chatter around it. I personally thought the film was pretty interesting, too. I had an interesting time at that movie.
Interesting for sure. Fun to watch. Definitely not.
No.
The response was just awesome. I mean,
did you also remember seeing the footage of him and Gaga at the premiere event where they were like lip reading?
Oh yeah,
and like Joaquin is like, it's terrible.
Yep.
And Gaga's like, what? No. What do you mean? And he's like, it's bad. And she's like, I disagree. It's good.
There's so much stuff that you can dig into here about what this movie was intended to be like, from the perspective of its creators.
Yeah.
It really does feel like a big ball of hate lobbed from Todd Phillips at anybody who enjoyed Joker.
Oh, God. I remember Todd Phillips spent opening weekend like at a ranch with no internet access.
I would have too.
He knew it was coming.
But I just wonder, how much was Joaquin Phoenix in on that? Like, how clear-eyed was he throughout the process when it comes to what they were making? My personal theory is that Lady Gaga was not in on the gag whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's true.
She must have thought she was making an entirely different film than the one that they ended up making.
She gave it her all. She's a good performer.
Yeah, and based on the amount of cut footage I saw from this thing, specifically with scenes with her character, I feel like there probably was like a whole different movie that they made here. Maybe that they, like, if I want to go real conspiracy nut job with it, maybe even that they like pretended to be filming to appease Lady Gaga.
So that she wouldn't smell a rat.
Yeah.
Do you remember also another befuddling piece of information that came out about this in the wake of its extreme flop was that the film was inspired by a dream that Joaquin Phoenix had had. Do you remember that talking point?
I remember that too. Yeah, I do remember that. A lot of good little tidbits.
This was a real feast of discourse, all of this here.
Yeah.
I think between Madam Web and this and one other movie that I'm sure we'll be talking about in a couple of episodes from now, it's been a really good year for movies that gave us things to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know if the last one you're talking about is Kraven the Hunter, but that one has not made the list. It seems like we are just full up on these terrible comic book movies.
No, Trevor, don't worry. I'm holding space for the film that we might be talking about in the future.
Okay, yes, I of course know what you mean now.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that when it's time to talk about that. But for now, I think we'll give this one the boom.
We're booming it. Boom.
Next up, we got to get back to this election. And this is a bullet that speaks to a kind of like, transition within the Trump team that we kind of touched on happening in our previous episode. Elon Musk looks foolish jumping in photo with Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
So he jumps, his little belly pops out of his shirt.
Right.
In theory, or confirmed, I don't know, is he trying to form the letter X with his body? Is that part of this?
That is what a lot of people were speculating. He appeared at this rally with Donald Trump. I think this the first big Trump Musk. No, it was not the first big Trump Musk crossover because we previously discussed
We've had them dancing.
that video of them dancing that echoed the Hillary campaign.
But this definitely feels like we've ratcheted up.
Yeah.
The temperature of the Musk-Trump relationship.
Maybe their first real crossover, considering that one happened via AI technology. But yeah, Elon Musk was at this rally with Trump. I can't remember if this was I don't think this was the Madison Square Garden one, right? That was a different one.
No, it was outdoor, if I recall correctly.
And, just to display his exuberance for the campaign, at one point, he leapt into the air and spread his arms and legs in a way that could be interpreted as forming an X, the name of how he refers to Twitter.
And his mouth is kind of open. His head is sort of tilted. It's not a flattering photo. And were this 2005, there are some words I can imagine teenage discourse dudes would have used that are no longer really acceptable.
Sure. I mean, I think like a lot of those words are coming back in vogue with the younger generation. So if we wanted to bring on some alpha or Zoomer guest hosts for this segment, maybe we could have made that happen. But, that's a lack of foresight on our parts.
Yeah, we could have had my 7-year-old daughter come on and call him the F slur.
Yeah. What do we think here? He did look like an idiot. It was fun to see everyone make fun of him.
It's an enduring image from the year. If you made a collage of 2024, you can imagine throwing this in there.
It didn't get onto our cover, but hey, I think that I might have started working on that before this happened. I can't remember the exact timeline.
Yeah, I don't know though. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe a marginal boom, just because it was such an image.
We're either marginally booming or marginally dooming, and I think we marginally boomed just because of you can see that image still being posted on the site.
Boom! Real silly one coming up next here. Just a hell of a sentence. One that really prompts additional questions probably, but I'm sure you'll know what I mean. Israel-based woman celebrates 1 year of detransitioning after October 7th attack prompted her to stop using her binder. So this was one of two really genuinely insane Israel-based topics that one of them made the list, the other one didn't. I think the second one was that tweet about that person who was like, this Israel thing needs to stop because my long distance Dom lives there and they are just not in the mood to engage and play with me while all this stuff is happening. So I need y'all to fix this.
Oh, yeah.
But this was probably the better one, right?
Yeah, and I feel like this, what are they detransitioned? So they're he?
No, they are a woman. They were previously transitioning to male, and part of that I imagined was wearing a binder, right?
Right.
But during the October 7th attack, I guess things were so hectic that they were not able to put their binder on that day. And that prompted her to realize, this is not where I want to be taking my life. So I'm going to stop transitioning and go back to my assigned gender.
And she has lingered, I feel like. I still see this little curly-haired hobbit woman show up now and then having something to say. And she seems to have, probably linked up with the grifter sphere, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen too much persisting stuff coming out of this source, but maybe I'm conflating her with other conservative Zionist accounts that I see every now and then.
It's a striking line item phrase.
Definitely. I mean, it's a rich sentence. It touches on a lot of things.
October 7th attack, detransition, binder. It's got a lot of good buzz phrases in it, doesn't it?
It does. I feel like definitely enough to carry it to the boom category for me.
Yeah, I think we boom it.
Boom! This Israel-Palestine conflict, it just impacts so many different areas of life, ones that you never even consider.
Totally. Doms.
All right, some classic film discourse here, I think. I missed the initial round of discourse that this was in response to, but I think this, the way I phrased this bullet, kind of encompasses that. Is the Rocky Horror Picture Show problematic and trans-misogynistic?
Oh.
It's October. I imagine a lot of theaters are showing some midnight showings of Rocky Horror. which, got the discourse machine fired up and talking about it.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that a 1975 musical comedy would not be square with 2024 gender theory orthodoxy. That's crazy to me.
Who could have imagined? This one's, I feel like, a pretty clear-cut doom for me. There's nothing more tedious for me than, like you just said, examining like an old out of touch piece of media through a contemporary lens and trying to poke holes in it and seeing where it fails by our current standards.
And particularly one that's like beloved and sacred to the gay community, the trans community, etc. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the point of this discourse? I'm gonna doom this one.
Gotta doom it.
I tell you, we got a lot of trans issues here in October of 2024. This next bullet, another one of my all-time favorites for the month, though, probably, because there's some good comedy going on here. Indigenous American trans woman's therapist refuses to use her chosen name, which is Japanese.
Oh, right.
A really great exchange I remember from this one. I believe her name was like Sayeko.
Yeah, that's right.
If I'm pronounced that correctly. So this woman goes into her therapist's office and is like, "I'd really like you to use my chosen name." And the therapist says something like, "You want me to call you Psycho?" But yeah, the joke here, this indigenous American adopting a new name that is Japanese.
Yeah, because I ostensibly because she's a weeb.
Right. The classic, if this did not have the trans underlying element to it, just classic weeaboo behavior, like your unwashed nerd deciding that he wants to start wearing kimonos everywhere.
The only place where I don't know that I have the cultural perspective to call a ball or a strike is the indigenous background of it all. Is like,
sure, because as an indigenous American, I could see feeling reluctance when it comes time to choose a new name for yourself to want to adopt like a Western name from a culture that's
right,
responsible for destroying the people that you come from. And that was a very big part of this discourse, I remember.
If I transitioned tomorrow and I told you that I was going to go by Michiko or whatever, and you were like, ugh, that'd be one thing. But if I was Michiko the Chippewa, maybe you'd be like, I'm not sure where the rules are here.
It's just not my place to call it, it's just not my place. But there are plenty of things here that we can laugh about that are extraneous to all of that, I think.
I remember this crossed over the apps too. There were TikToks about this one, I remember too.
Yeah.
So it was big discourse for sure. And it's an interesting and funny and like, many layers to it, sociological piece of discourse.
Yeah, and, for all those reasons, I do feel like it's kind of deserving of the boom.
I think we boom it.
Boom! Pretty solid, breezy month for booms so far. They are currently leading the dooms with like a 2 or 3 point margin. We'll have to see if that continues.
And so often early on in the months, we can't count on that either.
No, yeah, but, we'll see how things shake out. Let's move on to this next bullet.
Yeah.
Hurricane Milton approaches and hits Florida.
Yeah, hey, this time, Florida, you guys better get in your car, better go.
Yeah, I remember this feeling like it had a lot more buildup than it ultimately resulted in when it comes to producing discourse.
Once these storms make landfall, you never know how catastrophic it's really going to be.
Right.
Our meteorologists are just doing their best. You remember that guy who was in a boat?
Vaguely. I feel like there's that guy every time one of these things happens.
He was like, I'm going to be fine because the water level will go up, but I'll be in my boat.
Yeah.
He was kind of a main character here. I don't know though.
Yeah.
It feels like it didn't pay off in anything, right?
No, I'm
glad it didn't pay off in anything.
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, the way people were talking about this hurricane as it was approaching the country was like it was going to wipe Florida off of the map.
Right, probably a good thing that we're probably dooming this, because in the event of a boom, it probably would have meant a lot of death and destruction.
So we'll doom that one, and we'll move on.
Not to say that there wasn't any death or destruction, and if you or a loved one was impacted, we here at Discourse Dudes, our heart goes out to you.
Next up, man complains that his wife does not want to sleep with him during the first 8 weeks of his child's life. So, yeah. I can't remember specifically. This reeks of Reddit post to me. Just like, hey, look what this guy on Reddit is saying. Isn't this dumb? Or maybe it's valid. Let's talk about it and figure it out. Big doom for me.
Major doom territory. If you've got a really high libido relationship, sexual infrastructure with your partner, you're going to have to figure something out, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, first 8 weeks following the pregnancy, delicate time, you know? What do we have next? A kind of a sequel to previous discourse from this year. The Northern Lights appear across the United States for the second time this year.
Totality or better.
Yeah, I remember that being the call when we discussed this last time. If it's not some kind of big total eclipse, who gives a shit? And I missed this again. I don't want to hear about people getting to look at the Northern Lights when I don't get to see them. So yeah.
What's worse than a social media post about a astrological phenomenon that you have no way of experiencing?
Very little, I would say. So let's doom this one.
Doomed.
Dooms are catching up, it looks like, unfortunately.
Okay.
Massive one coming up next. This was seismic. People were talking about this for the rest of the month, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Mr. Beast rented out an entire theater to watch the Talk to a podcast, listen to KSI, and eat lunchly.
I don't know why, but something about this phrase, something about this caption, which he put on screen in the very famous YouTube short that was being passed around.
Yeah,
I can't get enough of it. I think about it all the time. I just like the phrase. I like it.
Yep, it's got a good rhythm to it, you know?
Yeah.
Before this, I don't feel like I was familiar with whoever KSI is. He's like a streamer / rapper. Is that true?
That's right. He's in the iShow Speed and Kaisenat tier of guys who will just like in their homes be streaming all the time.
All the time.
As like celebrity guests funnel in and out, as stunts and pranks are happening. Just like a one-man Big Brother happening on Twitch or whatever.
Okay, and I guess he was able to translate that to like a successful rap song.
Yes, I think the rap song, I believe, was like clowned on and roundly hated by almost everyone.
I can see that being the case as well, but yeah.
I believe he is also a co-owner of Lunchly, along with like one of the Paul brothers and Mr. Beast. They're like they're in some sort of a dyad of power.
Gotcha. So yeah, this was again a phrase that was kicked around for probably weeks after it originally happened. One that I initially kind of scratched my head over whether to include on this list because there wasn't really discourse around this. Like there wasn't a conversation to be had. It was just a thing that happened and people kept reminding you that it had happened.
And it became like a joke format
too,
a thing you could kind of like insert into whatever.
Leaves me kind of feeling like I'm in a tough position on whether to call a doom or a boom on this one, though.
Boy, I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things where I've gotten so much joy of it that I want to boom, but like, is that just because of some amino acid chain in my brain that makes me go like, whenever I see this, you know?
I mean, I'll happily defer to those acids and give this one like a marginal boom, if nothing else, just because it does feel like a phrase of 2024, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
We will boom it. Boom. Next up, Tesla shows off dancing and bartending VR-controlled robots at Robotaxi event. And yeah, I have robots in quotes there because I don't know if really by like the strictest definition of the word you can call these things robots because they are VR controlled.
Was this the dancing cars? Was that this?
No, it was, remember those Optimus robots? They were those white robots that were at this event and they were like pouring people drinks and they were able to have conversations. And I can't remember to what extent we really got genuine evidence about this, but most people seem to be saying that these were controlled by just like remote Tesla employees operating them via remote controls.
Right. It was like a shareholder fake.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Maybe like, this is the future and we're going to show it to you as if it's now and be very ambiguous about the fact that this is not now.
I've just now Googled the Tesla Optimus robot and I feel like I just barely remember any of this.
I always have an interesting response to these kinds of things, you know, because picturing that image in my mind, the Optimus robot, seeing him bartend for all these rich yuppies and stuff, I have an extreme amount of sympathy for that being, this robot slave we have created exclusively to be an underclass.
Right. Or remember the Boston Dynamics robots that they would like hit and beat on to show that they could keep standing up and stuff?
Yeah, like I have a lot of sympathy for those things, but at the same time, a lot of like human driven animosity towards them, fear anger. I want to see them mistreated and destroyed and prevented from entering our society in any kind of meaningful capacity, because once that starts, the gates are just open.
Both of the responses you're describing, yours and the antagonistic one, feel like they are some semblance of like the monkeys looking at the monolith in 2001. Like, we're using a meat computer that was theoretically designed to maybe plant berries, maybe plant grain, and forcing it to comprehend something that looks a little bit like yourself, is not you, and may replace you someday, right?
And another influencing factor I feel like that is entering into those mixed emotions is like throughout like the course of like the history of like robot depictions in media, I feel like famously there have been a lot of parallels drawn between like mistreatments of like robots and like homophobia and racism and stuff like that.
Or the servant class, the slave class.
Yeah, like, you watch like the Animatrix and you see people like gang destroying like robots that are begging for their lives, and you think like, this is terrible what humans are capable of doing. But then you really got to snap out of it and being like, no, that is not a homosexual person or a person of color being subjugated to systematic oppression. That's a fucking
robot, and it's coming for me.
That's a toaster. That's a refrigerator that is eventually going to want me dead.
Yeah. It's like, what did Joel McHale say in that first episode of Community? It's like, there's something wrong with the human brain because I can show you this pencil, tell you its name is Michael, and snap it, and then a little part of you hurts for it.
Ultimately, though, I do feel like I am reserving judgment on how I feel about these things because, at a certain point, I feel like you're like going to be able to like, fuck them.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to have a conversation about whether doing that when you're in a relationship with a human counts as like cheating.
We'll also have to have discussions about whether or not relationships are even a thing anymore.
Sure. But, depending on how my own partner comes down on that, whether it's cheating or not, I'm going to reserve my feelings for these robots based on that.
If you get the green flag, then maybe we got to be nicer to them.
Hey, Optimus, what's up? But yeah, it all comes down to that in the future. Until then, what do we want to give this bullet? A boom or a doom?
Is Tesla cheating on its fiscal, presentations? Is that enough for me to boom this? I don't know if it is.
It was some like interesting video to watch, and the videos did elicit a lot of like strong emotions and responses from a lot of people.
Yeah, okay, maybe there's just enough discourse to get it over the line then.
A marginal boom I'm feeling here, I think.
Marginal boom.
Boom's taking quite a lead here. We're going to have to see if they're able to keep that up.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I remember the month getting tenser and scarier as it went, so what's that going to be like?
Maybe this bullet will have you tensing up a little more. We've got more Sydney Sweeney talk.
Ooh.
Specifically, this deodorant commercial featuring Sydney Sweeney is what advertisements were like 20 years ago.
Man, was I just not on the site this week? I don't remember any of this shit.
This was a deodorant commercial, I guess, where Sydney Sweeney played like a genie that was summoned by your body odor or something and gave you some deodorant to put on. And people are like, this is what all advertisements were like 20 years ago, just like pandering towards like the sexual interests of men.
Man, I'm looking at pictures. I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, there was another side where it was like, no, it's supposed to be skewering old advertisements. Like, this is a parody.
We're horny about Sydney Sweeney as commentary
Yeah.
on what it means to be horny about people.
If you don't remember this one, I feel pretty comfortable dooming it just because, like, we've had so much Sydney Sweeney discourse.
Yeah.
This one feels like just like reiterating stuff we've already hashed out. How much longer can it go on?
Even if I was not on the app this day, surely a screenshot would have bubbled up in the days following. I don't know. I'm dooming it.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't see it, but I'm fine with dooming it all the same. Next up, these people in this office did a hear me out cake.
Oh, hear me out cakes. God damn it.
This is another one I structured specifically after the phrasing I kept seeing. The thing I remember about this video more than anything is that a lot of these hear me out propositions were pretty basic.
An anime girl, a Disney prince.
Every now and then they'll bring out like, a truly weird one and everyone will laugh, like a Cars character.
Yeah.
Or something, but that's about as weird as it got.
I've seen somebody do like corporate logos. That's like a good hear me out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like usually the riskiest they'll go is like the fox from Zootopia or whatever.
Being online, you get such a consistent look into the sexual perversions of true freaks, right? Like the amount of stuff that I've seen people make Sonic the Hedgehog do in fan art
Yes.
would destroy a 15th century peasant or whatever, as they say, if I showed it to him. But like an interesting look into the kind of like kinkier side of like very basic America, right? So that's kind of valuable.
Something that I don't like about these, because I also open up the TikTok app, and so I've seen a lot of these hear me out cakes, is the forced supportive friend group laughter is a part of this that grates on me, where it'll be like, Kermit the Frog, and everybody goes,
Yeah, tough to sit through a whole video of that stuff. I definitely know what you mean.
Tough.
So what do we want to give this one?
If Discourse Dudes was a TikTok-focused experiment, I think we'd be in major boom territory, because this thing lingered and became a trend for a long time. I don't know that where we were talking about things, whether we had much to say about these cakes.
I agree. I saw this video a couple times, and I did see responses to it. I feel like it did kind of peter out a little more quickly than videos like this frequently do. So if you feel like that's grounds for a doom, I can follow you there.
Yeah, I'll doom it. Not like I'm not throwing it in the bottom of the pile. I'm just not elevating it up to the pedestal.
Just slightly misses the bar. Do you think you and I are on anybody's hear me out cake, the Discourse Dudes?
Well, hear me out. I would like to have a slice of cake with you at some point, if that would be in the cards.
That'd be pretty delightful. Maybe to celebrate after all this is said and done, we sit down with a nice slice of cake.
Oh, happy birthday and death day to 2024.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving on, though. This is a pretty good one coming up next.
Yep.
17-year-old pop music fan is afraid of Sabrina Carpenter when she performs.
I'm happy this made the list.
I've been waiting to get to this bullet just because this was such a funny moment.
I'm 16 and I'm afraid of Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Ostensibly because sometimes she mimes giving a blowjob.
The Sabrina Carpenter live show is definitely very risque, and this was a bigger point of discourse that never really calcified into what, like, this is the representation for this discourse on the list, right? Sabrina Carpenter does a lot of like sexy stuff during her live performance, and at the same time, her music and her career in general is kind of has this perception of being for a younger audience. So people don't really know how to like reconcile these two things.
Right.
Her making this pop music that is ostensibly for like little girls and then going on stage and like demonstrating sex positions during her performance.
But I don't know that I get Disney girl pop music from her specifically.
See, I do, but that's just because all of this, like this genre of music, this like female fronted, like very saccharine, like loaded with hooks and like catchy stuff, this pop music, this seems like has always struck me as very young person coded. It is like what you listen to when you are a kid and when you are like a young teen before you move on to like other more like, adult music.
But aggressive in your face sexuality has been a hallmark of the genre since fucking Madonna and the Cone Bra, since Like a Virgin.
That's true, but I do think there's something about the way pop music has progressed over the past several decades where it feels like it has been, while it has gotten more and more like eroticized too, it feels like it has been more and more like juvenilized. Like it just keeps like getting dumbed down so that it is made to appeal more to like a younger audience.
I would say the peak of that, what you're describing, is the Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, these are 17-year-olds talking about fucking you in their songs,
Yeah. It's
like that was when we were very intentionally as a culture and as a media landscape, sexualizing minors in pop music. I don't know though. Is part of what makes it seem infantile maybe just the way that the sound of pop music has kind of calcified into this very bright, very breezy place? Is that part of it? I don't know.
I think that does contribute. And another thing about this is that like, and maybe this is just me and my shifting perspective as like somebody who is aging. When I was like when Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears were experiencing like the peak of their fame, I was like a very young kid, right? And like, significantly younger than them. But there just seemed something a little bit more adult about them than there does about this most recent crop of pop stars like Sabrina Carpenter and like Olivia Rodrigo. I'm thinking specifically of where like these are fully adults, but they just seem so much more minor coded to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you part of it is you're bringing your experience as a child to the table there, because I feel like when you go back and look at like Britney Spears dancing in a sports bra in a fucking high school locker room, and you look at Christina Aguilera, 16 years old when she records "Genie in a Bottle," "Gotta Rub Me the Right Way," it's so icky. It's so weird. It's like,
I can't deny that. I do think like there is this weird thing where like, and I feel like I'm not the only person who's observed this, but like younger people these days look younger than younger people back in the day did.
well, that's very interesting what you just said, because another part of this discourse that I think is fascinating is I remember being a teenager in the 2000s, and we did not so constantly represent ourselves as delicate, impressionable minors as teenagers seem to be doing today. This tweet being an example. And also, like, I remember there was one time where like a discourse server got in trouble for harassment, and they were like, "We're sorry, we're minors," that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Where like I remember as a 16-year-old wanting to be perceived as an adult all the time.
I think what you're speaking to is a very real thing that we've seen happen over, as this generation has, taken a larger role in online discourse in general, a bigger place in the spotlight. I do think it might be worth mentioning. I'm pretty sure that the person who posted this tweet about being 17 years old and being afraid of Sabrina Carpenter when she performs, I think they were the person who initially started the discourse about how, like, is this appropriate? But by the point that they got to this phrasing, I do think they were kind of in on the joke and being a little facetious with it.
Okay. There's some tongue-in-cheekness there.
So I do want to just like, afford them a slightly more charitable read. And I would also like to say, this is not something I feel like I've talked about in public, but for different reasons, I am also a little afraid of Sabrina Carpenter. My reason though is that I feel like she classically looks like one of those dolls in a horror movie that you would see that would come to life and do some spooky shit. Like,
she's Megan.
very like Megan vibes. I feel like that's a whole subgenre of movie though,
Annabelle.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it comes down to just like the way that her team makes her up and like dresses her. She just looks like a little ventriloquist dummy that has come to life and is going to kill me.
And she is famously short and sweet.
Some sinister things going on there for sure.
Can we just say you said this one sentence, you spake one sentence into the microphone, and we've now had 4 minutes of explosion of discourse. I think that alone firmly plants this into the boom category.
I agree. It's a pretty rich topic, as we've demonstrated here today. So yeah, let's give this one the boom.
Booming it.
Kind of feels like the peak of Sabrina Carpenter discourse that we got over the course of the last year. So we'll have to see if anything tops that one.
She's working late because she's problematic.
This next one, I feel like I sort of, maybe I was logged out this day or something, but I missed I missed most of this discourse. I really just caught the tail end, so I don't even really know what this is referring to totally. But allegedly, Stanley Kubrick has a daughter who's into QAnon stuff.
Oh yeah, okay. I feel like I also missed the primary source thing and just saw some jokes.
Yeah. So maybe I'm coming into this with the lack of experience required to determine whether this truly deserves a boom or doom. But just based on the topic itself and the amount of staying power it's had and the lack of information that really made its way to me, I kind of want to just default to a doom here.
Yeah, I think we also need to remember that celebrity children as a topic is fatiguing when we are dooming this,
Yeah, so we'll just give this one a doom and move on. Next up, this was a pretty interesting one. Donald Trump ceases rally to make crowd listen to music for 40 minutes.
Okay, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like bopping and swaying to opera, to at one point, I believe, Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor.
I feel like a lot of it was just like the classic Trump playlist, like Hallelujah, Maybe YMCA got played, but this was such an interesting point in the election because I feel like while the left was really riding high on how smug it was feeling about Kamala's chances, it really did still kind of feel like it was anyone's game. And like the fact that this was happening, I don't know if anybody really knew what to make of this.
Yeah, I also remember there being, I don't know if it was spin or if this was real, but like that there had been like several people had a medical emergency during that rally, and part of it was like stopping the speech to give rescue workers like a path to them or something.
Oh, interesting. I never even heard that. Like really the only response I saw to this was just like liberals being like, "Oh, he's so cooked. It's over. It's done.
Right.
There's no way he's going to win," which just is like,
we got him. This time we got him.
nauseating to revisit in hindsight. So I want to give this one the doom probably.
Yeah, I also want to do it. It's marginally funny footage of him awkwardly standing around and swaying and shit. But
conceptually it's great. But like in retrospect, like damn, it had gotten to the point where Trump could just fully stop his rally and just vibe for 40 minutes and he still won.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Damn, we lost to that.
No kidding.
Real rough stuff. Moving on. Twitter announces that it will soon change how the block function works.
Yeah. This might be the most meaningful service alteration of Twitter of the year, right?
Right. Although you got to wonder how meaningful it really was, because I feel like the block function on Twitter is something that famously has never been super effective.
Right.
Like all you really got to do to see somebody's tweets is just log out, right?
Famously never been super effective, but decisively used to be better at protecting people from their stalkers.
Arguable, I would say. Unless you like take the prerogative to like make your account private. All anyone would need to do would be to just make another account and they could just tweet at you, and see all your tweets.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. They never found a solution to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have we doomed every one of these so far? I wonder.
I think we have, just because I'm on record as feeling very fatigued by watching people bitch about changes that are being made to their social media site.
Although it feels like these changes are perhaps slightly more legitimately meaningful to be bitching about, right?
I suppose so. So, if you really feel strongly about giving this one a boom, I'll defer to you. But I would probably...
I don't really feel strongly about booming it, though.
I'd probably go down on the doom side of this one.
I'll doom it, but I will give the proviso that you're allowed to be upset about this.
Next up. I feel like we never really got to the heart of what was going on here. Nothing was ever confirmed. Nothing was ever discovered. But multiple hacked digital billboards in the Chicago area displayed anti-Israel messages that claimed to be paid for by Mr. Beast.
I remember that. His dumb smiling face up there and just the fucking anti-Israel stuff. That was funny.
I think it just said "fuck Israel" right next to the Mr. Beast smile. What was going on here? Who was this?
I don't know what that was.
It wasn't Mr. Beast.
No, it wasn't Mr. Beast. He's Mr. Public Image.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did we find out? If we did, that didn't really get served up by the algorithm, I don't think.
I don't think so. So we've really just got a mystery on our hands here. And, a subsequent mystery, do we boom this or not?
Funny image. It came in an era where I feel like it not reflected necessarily on our list, but Mr. Beast was having a bit of a season of issues.
Yes, this was when a lot of the videos were coming out alleging some serious ill actions going on within the Mr. Beast camp, I believe.
And the Lunchley mold incidents were happening, and then this on top of it. It was kind of funny that he was getting main charactered in a bad way.
It was Beast season for sure. But again, does that lead you to a boom here?
Maybe I'll marginally. Can I marginally boom the Mr. Beast anti-Israel billboards just for I love culture jamming and troll hacking and shit stuff. That stuff's funny to me.
Sure, yeah, I think a marginal boom here feels pretty fair. Boom! Next up, woman posts that she's recently befriended another woman who is objectively unattractive and has noticed how they are treated differently.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Just shading your friend.
That poor girl. Man, I recently befriended this real fucking dog, this ugly bitch. And like, I can't help but notice that people just treat her like shit compared to me.
So funny. And something that's a little bit bracing. I don't think I saw the phrase humble brag used. Is that phrase officially dead in the nomenclature?
I don't know if I've seen humble brag invoked for quite some time now, probably years.
Oh man, rest in peace, Harris Whittles. It would have been a great year for you to have enjoyed fish.
To be fair, I do think he officially retired that phrase before he passed, so it might have been his own doing.
It could have been.
This was funny though. I don't think it spun off into too much discourse worth getting into, but yeah, just very, very funny lack of self-awareness maybe on this person's part.
And the aforementioned humble brag of it all.
Yeah.
Of just like a way to tweet about how you're good looking.
Yeah. But do we give it the boom?
It's right. We've had a few of these now in a row where it's just right on that line, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It didn't carry on into anything. I like it. I have fun feelings around it. I'm doing the math, and I don't think I'm getting all the way to boom with it.
Yeah, I feel like maybe like a more boom-worthy version of this bullet finds like that, like, allegedly less attractive friend seeing the post and like having some kind of follow-up, like, actually, this post is about me and we're not friends anymore.
Right.
That would have been really interesting. Definitely would have gotten at the boom, but like you said, nothing really happened here. So I think we have no choice but to give it like maybe a marginal doom.
We marginally doom it for no other reason than it just not quite having the steam to get it there.
Man, we are 20 points of discourse into October, and it is neck and neck. We've got 10 in the boom category, 10 in the doom category.
Wow.
We've definitely got a really big one up next. We'll see how this breaks it. Former One Direction member Liam Payne dies after falling from hotel balcony.
That's a harrowing thing to have happened.
And it, came out of nowhere.
And I believe there were drugs involved. We later learned that he was fucked up. And
a big feature of this discourse, I remember, was the TMZ article that came out very quickly in the wake of it happening, that I think showed some pictures of the body, and a lot of people like universally agreeing like that is like really tasteless and abhorrent.
Yeah, so in the boy band of it all, I feel like I don't have a good handle on the caricature of each individual member of One Direction.
Yeah.
Like the funny one, the cute one, etc. Liam feels like he was kind of maybe a lower tier One Direction guy. Is that fair?
I really couldn't tell you anything about him. I know he's not Harry Styles. He's not. Who was the first one to do a solo thing? Was that Zayn?
Zayn, yeah.
But this was a crazy day on Twitter.
Yeah, it was.
Just this story coming out of nowhere.
A lot of weeping, a lot of tasteless jokes.
Yeah.
The whole gamut of it. It was embracing maybe the biggest like breaking news celebrity death. We talked about like Toriyama and the outpouring of love and respect for him. This feels like your classic TMZ. The culture going hog wild for a tragic and unexpected celebrity death, right?
Sure, yeah. Either this was the biggest random celebrity death, or the Super Size Me guy dying after we all criticized it. That one probably also up there. But yeah, this one definitely had more of an impact, I would say. So it feels kind of weird to do it, but I feel like our only choice is to boom it.
We got to boom it, dance all night to the saddest celebrity death ever.
Boom! Yeah, and that officially puts the booms ahead for October so far. Weird way for it to happen. Mm-hmm. We'll see if that lead continues with this next bullet. Back to the election. Donald Trump works a shift at McDonald's, takes pictures preparing food and serving customers.
Do we even need to? Look, let's chat about it for a minute first.
Yeah.
First of all, it's such a funny moment of, you remember when we started the show and it was supposed to be about us getting dumber,
right?
As the year goes,
of course, yeah.
This is maybe as dumb as we ever got, because the point of this photo op was to clown on Kamala Harris for having claimed to have worked at a McDonald's when she was younger, and for evidence of that being really shaky.
Uh-huh.
That's what Donald Trump was doing. Oh, look, I've worked at a McDonald's one day longer than Kamala Harris has. Like, just an asshole-ish troll against her.
Yeah.
But then what really happened was that fucking Joe Average in Florida, in Pennsylvania, was like, oh man, Donald Trump working the fryer at the McDonald's. You know what? He's like me. We ain't so different, me and him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy, just so stupid,
but
incredibly stupid.
And in a way that really, like, nobody wants to enjoy engaging with the Trump campaign in any capacity whatsoever. But I think everybody, was having a good time looking at these pictures and memeing them and just coming up with different scenarios that could have happened while he's working at McDonald's.
There's already a rich and storied history between Donald Trump and McDonald's. They're
To the point where I didn't even know that this was in response to that Kamala thing. I thought it was just them going like, "Hey, everyone knows Trump loves McDonald's. Let's have him work there for a day. That'll be fun."
and then immediately, well, maybe this is a line item too about the onions. I don't know if that made the list or not, but
No, the E. coli onions that did not make the discourse list, so we could talk.
yeah, it is funny that happens immediately after this. There's some bomb pictures of this. We can't deny the Trump McDonald's pictures are great.
Yeah. Him waving out of the drive-through, very classic.
And him talking about, I was really impressed how clean they keep everything. Because the unspoken truth of Donald Trump's fast food diet is that Donald is a germaphobe and
Right.
he's terrified of food poisoning.
Yep.
And feels that by eating it at large chain restaurants, they have such high liability that they keep their kitchens safer.
Yeah.
But of course, it just looks like he's a greasy little fat boy who loves McDonald's, which he also is.
Yeah.
All of this comes together for, in my opinion, maybe the boom of the Donald Trump campaign.
Possibly, yeah. Definitely one of the biggest booms we've got from Trump so far. Feels undeniable. We got to give that one a boom.
Yep.
And I kind of want some McDonald's now. I don't know about you.
Oh, man, what would you get?
10-piece nugget, large fry, large Coke, classic.
I'll get a large diet, 1 McDouble, and 1 hot and spicy McChicken.
Going with McDouble over the double cheeseburger. I feel like this is something that you and I have occasionally almost come to blows over in the past.
You know what? Recently, it's just been like, do I really need 2 slices of cheese in my garbage diet?
I mean, the answer to that for me is always yes, but we'll talk about it at at a later date.
Yeah.
Next up, this one was pretty funny, pretty interesting, a lot going on here. Woman's boyfriend of 3 years breaks up with her after she upends her life to move to Texas with him.
Okay. Did this come in the form of like a decently edited TikTok or something? I can't remember.
It was like a classic, wordy indie girl TikTok ukulele song.
Yeah, right.
About these events happening that were like, imagine you're a girl and you live in LA with your boyfriend and he tells you that he wants to move back to Texas to be with his parents, and then you do it and you say goodbye to your improv troupe, which of course you have, and you move back to Texas with him and you love him, and then he goes on a vacation with his parents, which is like a weird thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
And then he comes back and he tells you that he wants to break up with you because you have nothing in common. I can't believe we had nothing in common. I never realized. And now I live with my mom.
Yeah, okay. So I never made it to the end of this thing.
Okay.
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah. One of those bizarre clips like Gen Z Boss and a Mini that whenever it came across my timeline, I had to watch it in full. I'll admit to that for sure.
Were people, I don't remember, were people you go girling her or dunking on her? I can't really remember what was going on.
I feel like there were a lot of different responses to this.
Okay.
She was there was some support. There was some just men are awful. But then there was the animosity that any millennial Zoomer cusp woman on the internet who does improv comedy and has kind of a comedic music project that they post TikToks about, that kind of person is only going to elicit so much sympathy. And I think at several points in this saga, she did overplay her hand a little bit to the point where people are like, all right, I now firmly believe that the girl whose boyfriend left her after she moved to Texas with him deserved it.
Right. Okay. So maybe it's not as clear cut as, because there's nobody really going to bat for the Gen Z Boss and a Mini girls, right?
Right.
There's, I don't know who their defenders are. I have not seen them. But here, maybe it's a little hazier. Maybe you feel sad that this thing happened to her. Maybe you feel like, well, fuck off. You're annoying, Yeah. I don't know. I feel like having not been able to make it to the end of the source document anytime it's been served to me, I think I need to kind of defer to you on this one if you feel like this is a boom or a doom.
So I really do enjoy watching that video. There's just something about it that compels me. But there was, I struggle to remember any actual events happening in the ensuing discourse. So I feel like we could maybe we maybe have to give this one a marginal doom.
Marginal doom, I'm on board for it. I feel like you really need to steer the ship on this one, and I like where you've steered it.
A lot of people had a lot of opinions about this one, but really the source of conversation, how much really is it worth spending time on? Not much. I don't know. Next up, many Twitter users receive payments from Juul-related class action lawsuit settlement.
Okay, I kind of remember this happening, kind of.
Yeah, this was a day on Twitter where, like, people will tell you, always sign up for the class action lawsuit settlement. And this was just an example of when that pays off, because some people are really getting some decent chunks of change out of this stuff. I saw like a lot of like high 3-figure payouts and like even some 4-figure payout. This was like a cause for celebration among the Juul user base.
Right. But our big checks, our vaping companies, are these things that we're really getting excited about talking about for any extended period of time? I feel like we all know vaping is terrible for us, right?
I remember more than anything, I became one of those salty people who missed out on the eclipse or something, because I was like, damn, why didn't I hit the Juul like one time? This could have been fucking me.
Just so you could, yeah. I hear that.
But I don't know if this is boom worthy.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we doom it just by virtue of the fact that vaping kind of 2010s, right? We're sort of past it, aren't we?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Next up, some TV talk. Did BoJack Horseman suck?
I don't remember people talking about this, but I think it sucks. I don't like it.
Yeah, this was like a weird, almost kind of like, I got to see an arc I've experienced myself on a personal level play out on like a very public scale, because a lot of the discourse surrounding this, people were sharing clips of BoJack Horseman being like, this is supposed, like, it's like, one of those scenes from the show where he's like having a big emotional epiphany or something, or like being told that like he's a bad person or something. And like, it was being shared in like a negative context about like, some like lack of quality writing in the show, or like circular character arcs or something, or just like, about how cringe such a thing is in general to be like doing with a cartoon about a talking horse. I can't remember the specifics.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing an opinion that I personally have echoed by a lot of people who were saying, I really enjoyed BoJack Horseman when it was on, but, anytime I've tried to revisit it via clips or like sitting down to watch the show itself, I can't really believe that I ever enjoyed this.
Yeah, I gotta say, from the ground from the ground floor, rather, this one really missed me. I watched the first 2 seasons at the insistence of many friends who were telling me how great it was. And boy, I just didn't see it. Didn't think the writing was there, didn't care particularly about any of the characters, thought that its musings on depression and celebrity and drug use were very rote. The thing that really made me go from like, whatever about this to actively not liking it was that there were like some key moments in that first season that were like a piece of in-universe writing was being presented to you as if it was like brilliant and groundbreaking and catching on with everybody, and it was just like awful, shitty writing.
Yeah, I think your own take on BoJack Horseman just speaks to like your like own unimpeachable prescience and like just like the way you're able to evaluate media. I really wish that the rest of us were just on that level, so maybe we could like avoid things like these taking off like to begin with, but clearly there's still a lot of catching up there to do.
I like lots of trash, garbage comedy stuff. Like, I think Knives Out is a funny movie. So I don't know, but BoJack Horseman, I was never on board. So I don't know that I'm really in the demo of this. This seems like it's more a talking point for people who once loved BoJack Horseman and now feel that in cold sober daylight they can no longer endorse it. But again, people bitching about media and rehashing if something was good. This is doom stuff for me.
I'm in the same boat. As interesting, as uncanny as it was for me to see so many people experiencing what I've experienced independently. Nothing really boom worthy here for me. I did not enjoy revisiting any BoJack Horseman clips. So yeah, let's doom this one.
Yeah.
Next up, this one kind of like sets up a thing that we will see happen throughout the rest of the year, strangely enough, just like imitations of this. And imitation is kind of an interesting, it's featured here on a conceptual level. But Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest in New York City is shut down by police.
Well, part of this There's more to this that's not in this line item.
Explain.
Timothée Chalamet showed up to this thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Timothée Chalamet lookalike contest is kind of its own bullet, I guess. Like that is this bullet. All the stuff about it.
Right.
But
and there have been, by the way, there have been many high-profile lookalike contests. It's kind of become a thing. It's like the flash mob adjacent 2024 trend in a way.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think any other ones happened in October, but it was interesting because the response to this happening was for people to kind of like meme-like come up with other celebrity lookalike contests that they would want to see happen. Specifically, it was like celebrity lookalike of this attractive female celebrity happening in my bedroom tonight. The prizes, whatever.
Yeah. That's become the prevailing meme to come from this cultural moment.
But then it like really just started happening like in real life, and we saw a bunch of these things like popping up.
Yeah, I think we're booming this because it not only was it like a very eventful, much talked about moment, it then becomes planking,
Yeah. A boom here works for me for sure. Let's give it the boom.
Yeah.
All right, here we've got one that we kind of foreshadowed at the beginning of the episode. We're seeing further developments here in maybe the relationship of the year. Donald Trump holds rally at Madison Square Garden. Elon Musk attends and leads incredibly stilted USA chant.
That's right. And then I think the big news story to come out of this rally was that comedian made a joke about Puerto Ricans, and once again, liberals are like, we got him. This time, he's going down.
Yes, that was an additional event that happened at this rally that we will touch on in a bullet coming down the pipe pretty soon. So,
okay. Sorry to jump the gun on that.
No problem. We'll table that for now.
So let's just think about this USA chant then.
Yeah, and this is such an interesting, the video of this happening is such an interesting piece of media history for me, because in retrospect, and I felt this at the time, a lot of people at this point were thinking Kamala was pulling ahead of Trump in the election, right? Whether that was a misguided insight, you could discuss that now in hindsight. But a lot of people were thinking Kamala was looking pretty good.
Okay.
If not that, it was at least looking like it was going to be a very close race.
Right.
But I remember seeing this video, Elon Musk standing on that stage going, USA, USA, USA. Oh,
right.
I remember watching that video and being like, fuck, they are going to win.
Yeah.
It's over.
Maybe there were definitely like talking heads and influencers who were like, look how bad they were about to lose. But I do think in October specifically, there was a general vibe that, if nothing else, the Harris campaign was quickly losing momentum.
And even if it wasn't losing momentum itself, it was failing to prevent the Trump campaign from gaining momentum.
And couldn't buy a headline to save her life, made all the wrong media appearances. We've all rehashed it.
But yeah, this, as cringeworthy as this moment appeared to be on video, this was, I remember, one of two specific moments around this period. The second one is still to come, where the Trump victory felt like a lock to me.
Could you articulate what it was about that clip in particular that gave you those vibes?
I can, exactly. I will regularly feel like sometimes the energies of the universe will conspire to deliver a result that will satisfy whichever party will be the most annoying once they are satisfied, right?
Right.
And if Kamala had won, there were certainly a lot of, libs that would have been very insufferable about that result. But here specifically, I feel like, is where the needle fully dipped into, we pushed into a territory where the more annoying group was going to be rewarded in such a way that the universe just could not resist doing it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's almost like a They Live glasses moment where you see something that's like so obnoxious, but it also like creates an atmospheric chain reaction where you look around the world and say, oh, wait, no, but we are this obnoxious.
Yeah. And again, there's one more event coming down the pipe. I think it happens at the very beginning of next month. So we'll talk about it then, where I'm like damn, this cinches it for Trump.
For that same reason, in 30 years, when like Logan or Jake Paul runs for president, they're going to win. Just because they're so hateable.
We'll talk about this next month, but like it's the same reason why Jake Paul won in that boxing match against Mike Tyson. Yeah.
Yes.
That was just the way winds were blowing. The worst group was going to be rewarded.
The energies. That's how they said.
So what do we want to do about rating this one?
USA. I don't know.
Classic clip for sure. A lot of people pass it around.
It's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Marginal Doom is where I'm sitting currently.
I'll defer to you on a Marginal Doom if that's what you want to give it.
Yeah, I'm just not moved.
Next one, we had another kind of like a not election debate, but like we're still pretty political here. Trans man with huge bro energy debates Ben Shapiro.
Right? He's sort of like a high school guidance counselor energy with the tilted hat, straddling the chair,
sitting in the chair backwards, like unkempt haircut, unshaven beard, ill-fitting, gross-looking hoodie on, just huge bro, being like, "Sup, Ben? Let's talk about some stuff."
Where like I have no doubt that deep down you are a man. I don't think you're this man. I'm pretty sure that you're glomming a lot of different things from media to create this man that you're trying to be in this clip.
I mean, T-boy swag is definitely a thing, and I feel like this is just kind of like a different iteration of that. Like, it feels genuine to me.
I think it seemed like a weird performance that he was doing on camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember this clip. It was funny.
Boom-worthy?
I don't know. I've been in October so often I felt like I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
Definitely an on-the-fence month, October. I think that kind of speaks to the, like, anxious energy of the month in general. But I'll give this one a marginal boom if you feel okay with that. You know, it was a fun video. It was fun to see Ben Shapiro reacting to this guy in real time.
And he is charismatic in a weird way. Not Ben Shapiro. I mean, this man is charismatic.
Yeah.
In like a weirdly stilted, are you a real person way.
I would get a beer with this guy. I would walk up to the bar with him and have the Tesla Optimus robot pour us a beer. But yeah, marginal boom for this one, I think.
I think we're marginally booming it.
All right, we've kind of got the opposite of the BoJack Horseman bullet here up next. It's weird how American Dad just became good one day and then stayed consistently good.
There are people who will tell you that, like, listen, it's not like Family Guy.
Yeah, it's actually way better than Family Guy. Like, it's a good Seth MacFarlane thing. I really don't have much experience with American Dad whatsoever. I remember seeing a couple episodes when it first started airing, and it did seem very Family Guy. I did not like it. What I've been told is that it gets really good, and I mean, according to this bullet, it just becomes good one day, and then it stays consistently good.
Right.
But I clicked around some of the clips that were getting shared, and there were some decent jokes in there for sure. Nothing that really inspired me to feel like I had to go put on an episode of this show, though.
No, if this bullet point has, objective truth to it, I probably will never find out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm on record. I think I've even stated on this show before. Family Guy, American Dad, decent enough shows to engage with on like a 15-second clip basis, but I'm just not going to watch it. I'm not going to put on an app.
Pretty hard to reach the boom column when you're just talking about a fucking TV show, in my opinion.
I think we're going to have to go with the doom on this one. Sorry to the American Dad fans.
Yep.
This next one I remember being quite controversial. Argument erupts live on CNN after conservative panelist tells commentator, "I hope your beeper doesn't go off" during discussion about Palestine.
Ugh, yeah, I remember this one. Rough clip.
This speaks to something else that I guess somehow missed the discourse list. Because frequently I will differentiate between what is Twitter discourse and what is simply news.
News, right? Yeah, and the beepers going off, killing a bunch of people in the army in Palestine or whatever it was. Was it civilians too? I don't know.
It was a lot of civilians, I think, like women and children. It seemed like a pretty horrifying thing that happened, and like Israel remains a very controversial issue, a polarizing one, I should say, because for as much of a backlash against, all the stuff they've done in the entire Palestine conflict and, all the other conflicts that they are currently engaged in,
right?
As much backlash as that regularly receives, there is still, a very sizable proportion of the United States, probably close to half, I would guess, who is firmly on the side of all this stuff happening and thought that this whole beeper episode was a great, hilarious prank played on like capital T terrorists.
Sure.
But man, I really don't know the kind of person you got to be like be able to uncritically engage with something like this. Even if you do support that side, you see them do something like this and be like, yes, uncritically good thing that happened here.
There was also Israel was making a lot of moves around this time, because didn't they also like assassinate the Hezbollah leader or whatever, the Hamas leader, in a hotel room in Dubai around this time as well? And like
possibly, it's really hard to keep up, honestly, especially with like timelines and stuff like that. But definitely, a big year for Israel in the discourse.
But this is a clip that definitely was really gross and weird.
Yeah, really, really interesting to see something like this play out live on TV. I saw the clip going around a lot. It was an interesting one to watch. I don't know if like the surrounding conversation was super illuminating or anything, or productive, but
me either.
Does feel like it might be boom-worthy to me.
Yeah, maybe so. One of the more interesting facets of the clip, in my opinion, is that like you cross a line you really can't come back from. Well, technically hoping you don't get murdered. Wink, wink. And then it's the weirdest part is that he can't hang in that energy. Like he immediately knows he's done bad.
He immediately backtracks. He's a fucking coward. Yeah,
like he can't be that guy. The guy that he really is.
Uh-huh.
So instead he's like, I didn't mean,
right.
Well, I didn't know, I wasn't.
It was just a joke. I was making a joke.
Yeah. So interesting, sniveling, gross little dude.
Definitely, which is to be expected, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we give this one a boom.
We'll boom it.
Boom. Next up, we had maybe the event of the month.
Oh, geez.
I'm talking, of course, about the Costco guys and the Rizzler appearing on the Tonight Show.
Yes.
This was huge.
It was almost like I almost said earlier this episode, like, how long since the Costco guy bullet point? I feel like, where'd they go? Here they are.
And this might feel like the culmination of the Costco guys arc in 2024.
Yes.
To me, at least, like this is probably the biggest they're going to get this year, right?
Yeah.
Appearing on national live TV. And not only was this a big thing to happen, the clips are gold.
The clips are so good. We'll talk about the Jimmy Fallon of it all. But first of all, before we do that.
Yeah.
Is this the first time the Rizzler's name has appeared on the list?
I think it is. Yes, I think it is. So maybe we need to provide a little bit of context here.
Yeah.
The Rizzler, not really a Costco guy per se.
No.
But he's part of the crew.
He is. I remember when he first came on the scene and people were quoting that line from the Poochie episode of The Simpsons where it's like, when the Rizzler's not on screen, the other character should be asking, where's the Rizzler?
Yeah.
He shows up and he cements the fact that people have goodwill for the Costco guys. Like, before then, it could have broken either way. What's with this showbiz family? The second you see the Rizzler and he does the Riz face, America falls in love.
Yep.
Forever.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if the Costco guys would even be as big of a talking point as they still are if they had not so like artfully delivered the Rizzler to us. I believe he had his own thing kind of going before teaming up with them, but they definitely, broke him on a bigger scale.
Do you also remember, because I remember in the wake of the Rizzler's first appearance, that there was discussion that he was a cousin.
A lot of people were first confused about how he was related to them, and then they were even more confused when like the answer turned out to be he is not. He is just some kid.
He's just another kid.
Really funny stuff. And of course we haven't explicitly stated it, and everybody knows. But the Rizzler's thing is he's a very little plump boy.
Yeah, he's a corpulent little boy.
And his thing is that he kind of strokes his chin or jaw area. He doesn't have much of a jaw, but he kind of strokes the area in such a way that has been now referred to as the Riz face.
That's right. He sort of sucks his cheeks in.
Yep.
He arches one eyebrow. He gives major face. There's really no denying it's a great face that he does.
Always a little bit of a confusing character to me, though, because I struggle with the concept, mainly because I feel like whenever I have seen the phrase Riz employed, it is in like a flirtatious sexual kind of context, right?
That's right.
So am I supposed to be understanding here that the gimmick is like that this little boy does this face and he, as a result, he is like irresistible to women?
Okay, so you've tapped into a great and complex and in some ways troubling, in some ways gripping nuance of all this.
By the way, we are an hour 20 into this recording session. Pretty long by our standing.
It's true.
But I feel like at an hour 20 to be going into this level of discussion about the Rizzler, it is worth it, you know? If anything is.
Do you know how sometimes you will see, sometimes in jest and sometimes earnestly, proliferated around social media, kind of oddly specific smiley faces that are a little bit more detailed than your regular emoji? I'm thinking of the evil one who's rubbing its hands together. I'm thinking of the one who's going like cuckoo with his fingers, and like, you know, like me reading the Unabomber's manifesto and making this face the whole time.
Yep.
Okay. In that series, there is one of a dude making this face that was known as the Riz face.
Okay.
So it predates the Rizzler.
Huh. I would have never known.
And so also does the honorific The Rizzler predate this kid.
Right, I remember that TikTok video, the TikTok sound that was going around forever. That was like,
Gat for the Rizzler.
sticking out your gat for the Rizzler.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, were they talking about that kid? I don't think so.
No, just somebody who has so much Riz that they become the Rizzler.
Yeah.
And I think there is somehow a tightrope is being walked where this kid is somehow proliferating an intense amount of Riz energy while not actually being sexualized in any way.
Sure, like platonic. Like, I mean, because Riz is simply just short for charisma, which does not have any sexual implications built into it.
That's right.
It is just so frequently deployed with that kind of context attached. So, yeah, can a platonic Rizzler exist? Certainly. But it's just something you need to specify, I think, at a certain point.
I feel like I'm in umpire stance. I got my hat turned backwards. I'm watching the strike zone as closely as possible, and I'm officially ruling it's okay to say that the Rizzler has Riz.
Sure. All right, so we've established that. Now let's take another 10 minutes and talk about how great it was to watch Jimmy Fallon reacting to these guys on live TV.
Because he was so openly contemptive towards them. He hated them.
I'd never seen anything like this before either. And like, I feel like it's nothing new for a celebrity of like, you know, this level, this TikTok star to be like interviewed. But
Yeah.
the energy was just that, like Jimmy Fallon clearly, I guess he thought that this was below him, right? Was that what it was?
He clearly didn't understand that the world was watching. Right?
Yeah.
He didn't realize the space that the Costco guys occupied in our culture at this point and how scrutinized he would be. Because he keeps batting them away. Yeah, booms. I get it. Yeah, booms.
Yeah, okay, the booms. Yeah, we're good. With 5 booms, 2 booms. That's good. Another great moment is when he gives the Rizzler, like, he gives like a turkey Twizzler or something to try, right? Gives him some kind of food.
Yeah.
And like, it's not good. I think the Rizzler gives it 2 pity booms or something.
Yeah.
And then he says, like, he asks Jimmy, like, where can I put the rest of this? And Jimmy just totally ignores him. And so this kid has to, like, put it down on, like, the armrest of his chair or, like, the floor or something. Just so much comedy gold in these brief clips. There were people who were like, I need a body language expert to, like, analyze this and figure out what was really going on here. And we saw subsequent rounds of discourse like that. Just really some of the best clips of the year.
Also, in the weeks that came, I remember Jimmy Fallon being interviewed about this interview.
Yeah.
Because it was like the only thing of note he's done in the culture all year. And like him not even addressing that angle of it, just being like, oh yeah, I knew they were a big deal. And it was crazy to have the Rizzler. He's such a cool kid.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And also Jimmy Fallon just being maybe my least favorite late night guy in history.
I mean, there's definitely like a universal ick that people have for him by this point, right?
And I'm even counting James Corden. I even hate Jimmy Fallon more than I hated James Corden.
That's a pretty big statement to make.
Yeah.
You're making with that one. Yeah.
I just don't believe in what he stands for at all is the problem.
I don't know if we can spend too much more time talking about this, but I feel like the answer here is pretty clear cut on whether this gets a boom or doom or not. This is one of the booms of the month, maybe even one of the year. It is the Costco guy boom for me.
Huge boom, and I feel like we did give the appearance of the Rizzler on the list its just desserts in terms of our own discourse.
All right, we've still got a few more bullets here. Maybe a few of them don't deserve that much conversation, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Next up, Millennial requests that old people stop texting him requests to call them without context.
Okay.
So this was a screenshot of a text conversation that somebody shared. It was like a text from their parent or something that was like, please call me immediately. And they responded like, never text me something like this. Text me what you want to talk about. I can't be receiving texts like that. And there was a lot of discourse that spun out of this. Like, a lot of people responded to it being like, oh, well, you're going to want to talk to your parents when they're gone, so you should cherish this time.
Right.
And another group of people were like, no, what he's objecting to here is like being texted as if there is something ambiguously urgent going on when really it is just like a normal, like, hey, I want to make Christmas plans when you get a chance,
And this speaks to an actual generation gap thing about how, calls versus texts are handled in different age groups. But come on. Who cares?
Yeah, it's certainly representative of that, which is something I definitely have like firsthand experience with when it comes to older people in my own life. And yeah, there is definitely a degree of frustration there, but it is not something I want to see get hashed out on Twitter when I'm kind of like, ostensibly just trying to relax on the timeline.
I challenge you to show me a take about this topic that gets me excited, makes me laugh, anything.
Yeah, it feels reminiscent of like the old throwing out your parents' china discourse that we talked about some episodes back, but
yes,
there was really a much richer discussion to be had there. I don't think there's any discussion to be had here. Let's doom it.
We're dooming it.
Next up, I got another event that I feel like was really contributing to just like this era of like slight craziness that was amping up all October and really peaking around this time of the month. Yankee fan tries to pull caught ball out of Dodgers player's baseball mitt during a World Series game.
Oh man, classic sports footage shit for sure.
Yeah, and it just felt like, as the election was growing ever closer, we were just losing all decorum as like a people.
We were becoming stupider. We were becoming more selfish. All of the things were coming out in that moment. I agree.
I'm not a big sports guy, but this was probably one of the like rare sports bullets that kind of escaped sports Twitter and just proliferated across the site. As a result, I kind of want to, pay deference to it, give it respect, and give it a boom.
I also want to boom it. I feel like it's an enduring piece of footage that you'll probably see on SportsCenter forever, right?
Definitely a big image that was going around. Hard to forget it. Mm-hmm. So we'll boom that one. Boom! Here we've got something we briefly touched on earlier, going back to that Madison Square Garden Trump rally.
Okay.
Conservatives respond with outrage to Joe Biden referring to Trump supporters as garbage mere days after stand-up comedian speaking at Trump event refers to Puerto Rico as garbage.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joe Biden trying to lose the election. For some reason, he's a big Trump guy now.
An election he's no longer even running in.
Yeah. And he's putting on the MAGA hat. And he's giving every worst fucking soundbite possible. He's mad. He's mad that he didn't get to do the thing. And so he's lashing out.
Has there ever been in history an example of a political figure who has been more a liability to their side than Joe Biden throughout his, not only just like his presidency, I guess, but more specifically this past year?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we were stuck with Grandpa Joe, and he took us all for a ride, didn't he?
One of the worst politicians of all time, probably.
This was his basket of deplorables moment.
There's always something like this. There's always some huge faux pas that the Democratic Party makes that is really just a reflection of the Republicans' own faux pas. But for some reason, they are the ones who get crucified for it.
Something that's interesting, and I know that this is already a flabby episode,
yeah,
but something that's interesting about this moment and the basket of deplorables moment and like the nasty woman moment and all these moments, right?
Yeah.
Trump has been pretty good at only mocking the big public figures and not really taking aim at their supporters, almost as if he has a sense of maybe I can bring them over to my side, where it would appear the left doesn't have this instinct at all.
That's a very good point, one that I don't know if I've ever seen spoken of too much. The only example I can think of that runs contrary to that theory, and one where he's not even really targeting somebody for like, supporting the Democrats or anything, but like
Right.
that famous image of him where he appears to be physically mocking that like paraplegic person or something.
Yes.
The only time I can think of where Trump really skewered just an average man on the street. And I wonder if like we see a lack of that just because they don't even exist to Trump,
It could be, yeah, it could be that. And also, I think that there is a pervasive attitude on the left of like, well, of course, half the country's fucking idiots and racists, right?
Yeah.
Whereas it almost seems like on the right, there's more a feeling of like, it's pretty great over here in the racist idiot camp.
Yeah.
And maybe you want to be a racist idiot someday.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a huge talking point, though. We circled this one for days and days.
I think it's a boom for sure, right?
Yeah, you want to boom this one? I mean, definitely not a boom in that it elicits joy, but a boom in that it was a major talking point for sure. So yeah, let's boom it.
Yep.
We're down to the final two here, penultimate point of discourse for October 2024. We've got a little bit more class action lawsuit talk, but this time it's purely hypothetical. Is this tweet about an inevitable class action lawsuit related to Ozempic fatphobic?
The Ozempic discourse of like people cheating on getting thin. Someday we're going to find out it gives you scoliosis or whatever.
And there's going to be class action lawsuit. But a lot of people, I feel like the point that the original poster was trying to make was that stuff like Ozempic, pharmaceuticals, whatever, what have you, is frequently pushed to the public when it is at a stage where we do not know if there are any ramifications we should be worried about. Those ramifications will inevitably come to light, and as a result, anybody who used Ozempic will be entitled to part of a class action lawsuit. I think that was what the person was trying to say.
Right.
A lot of people, in classic Twitter fashion, took this statement as an implication that if you take Ozempic, you deserve to learn that it is somewhat damaging to your health in some capacity, and you essentially deserve to suffer for taking this easy route to becoming less fat.
Yeah, boy, I just can't really get excited about Ozempic discourse, unfortunately.
If there were a reason to boom this one, I think it would be because it is a classic example of what is now like kind of the Rosetta Stone when it comes to understanding Twitter, which is, of course, that post that's like, you can go on Twitter and post that you love pancakes, and someone will inevitably respond to it saying, so you hate waffles then?
Right.
Like this is like such a great real world example of such a tweet that is defining the Twitter experience.
But unfortunately, I think the problem is that it's not, Ozempic isn't pancakes. It's a loaded subject that's going to create obnoxious discourse wherever it appears, I feel like,
You kind of know what you're doing when you lob this one into the Twitter sphere.
Yeah.
The pancake thing is much more innocuous. I see what you mean. Even based on what I just said, I don't know if I'm feeling strongly enough about it to give it a boom. So if you want to give it a doom, I will defer to you.
I'm dooming it. Not enough there.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, just down to this final point of discourse. Kind of a lighter one to end out the month after all that's happened. Twitter users cite examples of obscure costumes as reasons why they hate gay Halloween. This was like a fun format, a fun phrase that we all locked into, and a way to share some fun Halloween costumes.
It was.
I hate gay Halloween. What do you mean your Chapel Roan's streetwear look that she wore in this TikTok from 2 years before she was famous?
Yeah, very fun. I love that it's like firmly seasonal, firmly holiday adjacent. It makes us like feel the end of this list as an October list.
Yeah.
I saw some funny costumes. It's a good meme format. I think this is a boom.
All right. Yeah, I feel similarly. It's always nice when a holiday makes it onto the list by means of like a truly unique way of doing so. And I think that's an example. This is an example of that. So yeah, let's give it the boom.
Awesome.
And that's October, kind of a tough month to get through. A lot of stuff happened, but just looking at the score, the booms really just eked it out. We had 19 booms versus 17 dooms. So
it was back and forth once again. I feel like there were some high highs and some low lows, too.
Ultimately, pretty even month for Discourse. Slight advantage goes to the Booms.
We're almost done with this election shit.
We're almost done with this election. We're almost done with this program. You know, we are.
Oh my God.
We only have 2 episodes left. The next one is the penultimate November episode, which we got some stuff to talk about in this next one. This is going to be kind of the true test of Discourse Dudes as a program. It is very much the big, eventful, penultimate HBO Prestige series, episode 9 out of episode 10 episode of Discourse Dudes. So a lot of stuff coming.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm already bracing for it. I'll spend the next month bracing for it.
Oh, well, I mean, you don't have to do that because we're going to talk about it directly after we finish recording this one. And our audience will only have to wait, a brief few days probably based on the release schedule of the show that, I want to say, I feel like we have kind of been nailing just to give us, our flowers.
It's sweeping the nation. Another major hit from the hit factory that is Trevor and Dylan doing podcasts together.
But yeah, that was October. I cannot wait to talk about November with you, Dylan. We're going to do that very shortly. But until our audience joins us for that conversation, I will just say that for now, I've been Trevor.
I've been Dylan.
And that's it for Discourse. We'll see you for the next one.
We're Discourse Dudes. Of course we didn't blow smoke all over your baby. Like, bitch, first of all, it's not smoke, it's like some other shit. Plus, scientists don't even know the ramifications of its hazard yet, motherfucking hoe. I'm in the thick of it, everybody knows. They know me where it snows, I skated and they froze. I don't know nothing but no ice, I'm just cold. 40-something milli-subs or so I've been told. From the screen to the ring, to the pen, to the king. Where's my crown? That's my bling. Always drama when I ring. See, I believe that if I see it in my heart, smash through the ceiling 'cause I'm reaching.